Welcome.
He's here.
Jeez.
So the animal that was living in the basement of the Hullfish House for a while when it was flooded,
Yeah, I remember that.
did that have a name?
You'd have to ask Sherry. I don't know.
I remember we tried to give it a name at one time. There was some kind of a large.
Oh,
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
thanks.
Well, I tried it here.
We'll wait till Marshawn comes back. Actually, we don't have to do that.
He's
go
a little
ahead
bit further
and-
down, yeah.
What is today? The 13th. Call the January 13th meeting of the Haymarket Planning Commission order. Roll call, please.
Here.
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 All right. Start off with citizens time. Would any citizen like to address the Planning Commission? Seeing none, we'll close citizens time. Announcements. I've only got one. For those that weren't aware, the power line town hall was last night. It went rather well for those who are in opposition to the power line. Not so well for those who are in favor of it. I would just offer the following to anybody who's interested. I think Delegate Marshall and Senator Black have a good point to make, that there are literally two options available, and only two options, I think, is what the focus needs to remain on. And that's either moving Amazon to a more appropriate location or burying the line in the 66 right-of-way. That being said, I would really like to commend the Protect Prince William County group, as well as Elena Schlossberg-Kunkel, for maintaining a focus by all of the impact or potentially impacted regions, and maintaining that focus simply on those two options. It sort of it makes the opposition to Dominion's multiple proposed power lines easier to manage, and it gives us a strength of common position. Apart from that, I've got nothing. Anybody else?
In that our normal liaison is not here, but we do have a council member here. The council was going to have a meeting after the Dominion meeting to go over the PC's recommendation that we forwarded to the council. Has a meeting time been set for that?
You most certainly may. We're not that formal.
I didn't know that I had opened up.
We could steal his.
Oh, there'll be no town planner report then.
Hello.
There we go.
Yes, we're going to meet.
Okay.
When, I'm not sure.
Okay.
We're planning, if we have to have a special meeting, we will. Well, while I'm here, I might as well, first of all, thank you all. It's a great report. I'm glad you went back and looked at the undergrounding and reliability issues. I think it made it a much stronger paper and much stronger argument, so I thank you personally. We may meet next week. There was a consensus that we shouldn't wait too long and get those.
That's why I asked. I remember that it was you were talking about a special meeting, or something, a quick follow up to last night's meeting.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we're just going to digest a little bit what was said. The only thing that bothered me about last night's meeting, and we're going to be reaching out to Elena. Is it Elena?
Elena, yes.
E.
E.
Is I didn't hear any mention of the double stacking, so that's not in their consciousness. Now, whether that's an issue or not for them, it is an issue for us. I've heard and I've read that we may not have any choice in the matter. However, there may be some ways to nuance or somehow take a look at what was covered last night and see if we can work something out, particularly if there is a relocation in the offing. That, and I'm not sure, that'll be up to you guys to let us know whether, in fact, if there was a relocation, would that preclude or obviate the need for the double stacking?
If they move to innovation, certainly it would.
If they move Amazon to innovation, the immediate need for the double stack will, at least in my view, be mitigated. I have a sneaking suspicion, however, that Dominion is going to push it one way or the other, depending on what their ultimate plans are for this end of the county. That being said, I think that's one we're going to have to toe on our own. It doesn't rise to the magnitude of impact that I think you're going to galvanize the type of community support. Can you dovetail on the community support in opposition to the power lines? Probably, so long as the Amazon plant remains on 55. If it moves, I don't know. It's such a everything is so up in the air right now. My inclination is that they won't do it, at least not immediately, if the Amazon plant moves. If it does stay there in that location, we're going to get it. And I'm
That'll be first.
relatively certain that as a preemptive sort of measure, that's going to happen. I doubt seriously whether there's anything we can do about it, because that doesn't even require an SCC hearing. It's just it's within their purview.
Yeah.
That being said, because of what happened last night, and I'm possibly one of the most cynical people on earth, and one of the most paranoid and sometimes insecure, I would suggest that you handle the report and a resolution sooner rather than later. And the reason I say that is this. Had the meeting not occurred last night, my sense is that Dominion would not have gone forward with a proposal to the SEC before March at the earliest, and probably April. Given what Delegate Marshall has submitted as a bill, 1708, and the provisions for requiring the undergrounding at the contractor's expense, if I were Amazon, I would force the issue with Dominion to get them in the SEC's door as soon as possible prior to that bill being enacted, that bill being even heard, such that there's no chance that the provisions of that bill could be enacted or used against them. Whether that actually happens or not, what happens with the bill if it gets enacted, what kind of leverage it can be used by or used as against the power lines at the SEC hearing, I don't know. I suspect it'd be a nice piece of leverage to have. Is it ultimately controlling if they beat the legislation in the door? I don't know, and that's really a legal question I suspect no one's ever asked. What a shock, Haymarket on the cutting edge again. But in order to be prepared for what Dominion might do in response, you might want to kick that out the door sometime in the next week or two, just to have your ducks all in a row.
Yeah, that's my sense of it. We'll probably move on it no later than next week. But, that bill itself, Bob, frankly, I think you said it best last night, was that it's a great bill. It's a good idea, but it's not really going to benefit us.
Now, it's not going to benefit us, and to be quite frank, I mean, I love Delegate Marshall to death, but given the sheer volume of dollars that Dominion contributes to various delegates and senators in the General Assembly, and given that the son of the CEO is a delegate to the General Assembly, I have a sneaky suspicion that bill is going to run into some problems right quick. Although it's going to be an odd year. I mean, the nature of the discourse in the General Assembly has changed dramatically. You've got several people in the Republican leadership on both sides of the Assembly stepping down. I just heard this morning that Senator Stosh, architect of our wonderful transportation tax bill, is calling it quits after this year. Senator Wagner stepped down. A lot of your I guess entrenched is probably the best word, tenured senators and delegates are leaving. Speaker Howell has a challenge this year, a primary challenge. So it might be, given those that are not seeking re-election, given the challenges of some that are, it may be a very different dynamic this year. It could be the Wild Wild West down there, so it's going to bear watching, and there are quite a few bills. As usual, I'm watching all the bloody bills that get submitted, and I'll have a report next month of some of the ones that impact us, but there are some land use bills and some bills regarding local jurisdictions that we'll probably forward some comments on or some information to keep an eye on, but we'll play that by ear.
Okay, if that's it, see you guys next week.
Could I just clarify something, going back to the double stacks
Yes, sir.
idea again? That seems to be that it's going to meet a need for Amazon, which so far has not laid a single brick down here. So just from the standpoint of timing, if they were to start tomorrow, do they need that power line before it could be laid along 266, before it could be laid along 66? Why go through the interim step of putting in something that's not necessary and probably won't be necessary for at least a couple of years, when right now construction is taking place on developing, 2 more lanes of 66 in both directions, and the opportunity is now there, it would seem to me, to put that line in?
Two reasons. Dominion will claim redundancy, and the fact that it will be online faster than installing a new underground route on 66 or any of their other proposed routes.
Well, plus, one other thing, let me just interject, Bob. To your point, it's going to take a while to get the approval for that transmission line as well, so they can come in here and double stack. I'm not sure what the permitting process is, if any.
None.
So they can just, as you say, by right, no, what did you say?
By right.
By right.
Yeah.
They can just come in here and put new poles in and run that line.
Yeah, they're going to be using an existing right-of-way, their existing easements, so, I mean, they could literally just come and slap it up overnight, and we wouldn't even know it.
Yeah, and their original timeframe, I think, was a couple of months to be done with that piece. So they can come in and do that very quickly.
The other part to the equation doesn't so much involve Amazon or Dominion Power, but it revolves around the county. Quite frankly, it revolves around the county's economic development office and the provisions that they have put in place for quote-unquote targeted industries. Data centers are targeted industries. As such, they get expedited plan review. They get expedited permitting. They get expedited this, expedited that, and that's why their site plan for the site is getting the scrutiny that it's getting in as expedient a fashion as it is. I double-checked on it yesterday. I pulled up the county's permitting site, their database yesterday. It looks like it's moving through the system, but as they're keeping everything in secrecy, we're not entirely sure how far through it is, but there are apparently, they're at least through their second review on the site plan. There's a second set of comments. I'm not sure I can access exactly what they are, but they are moving quickly on that. To that, I would also note that there are those that would suggest that Amazon would simply give up on this and move to innovation quickly or without much fight. I'm very much aware of at least 2 other sites, one in the state of Wisconsin, state of Washington, and one in the state of Delaware, New Jersey, or some one of those mini states where they actually ran into similar problems and built the building anyway. And at the end of the day, the building sits there vacant, and Amazon really doesn't care. In fact, there's not even power running to one of them. I mean, maybe even both of them. So at the end of the day, yeah, I have a sense that Dominion's going to put the double stack in under the auspices of potentially meeting the immediate need of Amazon when they have to first start up and before the power line goes in, and then they're going to buttress that argument with a redundancy argument and redundant service or potential service for the western area. So I'm pretty much resigned to getting it at some point, but
Yeah, once they make that investment in the physical plant, they're not going to
take it down.
Well, yeah, and I think they need the double stacking to open the doors, not to do the complete build-out,
Right.
but open the doors
Get
in the
started.
data center.
Yeah. Okay, gentlemen?
Anything else? All right.
Okay. All right, look forward to a productive meeting next Thursday, 22nd.
Cool.
Thank you,
Okay,
Councilman.
guys.
Thanks.
All right, minutes. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the December 8th, 2014 meeting minutes for the Planning Commission.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. ARB update.
Nothing of great import. We went through the signage and the parking commission. We haven't heard anything since that point, so I don't think I have anything new to go over since that point.
Okay, no new business. Zoning text amendment, zoning administrator, Mr. Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We, two things. One, I did get an extension by the council for another 90 days to review the amendments for the zoning text amendment for zoning administrator, which you'll notice in the packet. And I apologize this didn't get distributed with the initial agenda that was out earlier this week. But you'll see we went through, the clerk and I, actually Jen Preli and I, she went through and queried town council and administrator through the entire zoning ordinance and subdivision ordinance. And we went through there and flagged those references that talk or have a relationship to my role as the town planner and zoning administrator. So what you'll see is the result of that query and focusing on those specifically. We've been opportunistic and added some other language. I'd be happy to go through it with you generally, what the theme was, and then maybe next month come back and make any tweaks once you had a chance to review it in more detail.
I've taken a look at it, and I took a look at several of the enabling parts of the town charter. The only real issue I have is generally in the definitions, where it says, person appointed by the town manager to administer and enforce this chapter. That is a power that belongs exclusively to the town council. If the town council wants to appoint an administrator, I'm cool with that. But I don't think there is no authority to just slough this off to the town manager and allow the town manager to do it under our current form of government. You know, that's their responsibility to name that. Just like the building official is named by the town council, just like the PD chief is named by the town council, just like the clerk and the deputy clerk are named by the town council.
Actually, the method by which I was appointed the zoning administrator was from the town council.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I'm looking for a sheet of paper. I had an alternate definition I wanted to suggest, but I misplaced it.
Unless it says town council or council, I'm not going to be likely to sign off on it. It's just keeping the chain of power, the chain of command, and the powers that are prescribed by the town charter and the manner in which it's supposed to be delineated down in keeping with that. I don't see a justification within the way that we're set up, either by charter or by town governance structure, to allow for that. And quite frankly, if it means creating additional town positions, as not only as a planning commissioner but as a resident, I'm uncomfortable because of the second portion of that, where the town manager may also appoint one or more deputy and assistant zoning administrators, wherein you're going to create the opportunity for additional employees. I think that's definitely something that's got to be done by council and not by the town manager.
May I make a suggestion?
Certainly.
Okay. Under the definition of administrator, I would simply say administrator, means the person appointed by the town council charged with the enforcement of this chapter.
Why don't you just leave the language that you've got in and just replace manager with council? Or is that, am I missing
Yep,
something?
I'm sorry, yep. Means the person appointed by the town council to administer and enforce this chapter. Yep, same thing.
Yeah, so I would just replace the word manager with council, and I don't have any real issues there. I do like the special use permit provisions. I mean, that just makes it, although you spelled specially wrong in 58-263.
Just a second. So was the general consensus of the commission that it simply be administrator, means the person appointed by the town council to administer and enforce this chapter, and then strike the last part of that definition? The town manager may also
I
appoint
would
one
just
of them.
change that to council, too, if they want to appoint
The town
deputies.
council.
And then the same thing in Article 1 of the zoning chapter.
Okay. Building official, we just noticed throughout the ordinance, we reference a building official, but we don't have a definition for it, so we added that in the chapter.
Any objection to that change?
None.
No.
Hearing none, so done. Yeah, the rest of it seems pretty straightforward. I do like where you've substituted special use permit in for the zoning administrator, because that just makes it so much easier.
I think it's a term of art, special use, so I'm just going to go back through, when we say by special use permit, just say by special use, that's how we define it. We don't call it a special use permit, but that's a clerical change.
Next page, 58-304. What's 58-9? Is that special use?
That's what we saw, that's the special use chapter.
Okay,
So,
okay.
I guess if you're reading the ordinance and saying, okay, well, what's a special use, you know to go to section 58.9 to know what a special use means. The reason why we struck out town council shall refer plans to the commission for comments and recommendations, because that's more or less what a special use permit is. So,
That makes sense. Above and beyond that, I don't think I had any other real issues. Let me just double check.
Now, we did make some other changes other than just specific to the administrator that I'd like to point out to you.
Fire away. Procedure for meetings?
Now I'm going down to residential signs, we changed that. Yes, procedures for meetings under section 58.506, this is regarding the ARB. One of the issues we had was with the, well, no, that's another page. This one, what we did say is that basically saying the administrator would be deciding what materials need to be included in a submission. Sorry, I'm all over the place here. The other significant change we made was skipping down to 58.510. This is where, after a site plan approved, minor modifications that come through. We had previously said the council would have to do that. We had moved that to an administrator position, but it's very specific under what circumstances a minor modification would be made, and that is, reduce the alter the grass or landscaped areas, the size or lot surface and active use. That is a common practice in a lot of other jurisdictions where there are some administrative revisions that are approved, but they're very specific in what criteria that would be allowed.
No issues.
Okay. Old Historic District Overlay. Again, under 58.554A, we just define building official rather than the local maintenance code official. Down in procedures for a meeting, 58.558, the town clerk shall notify the applicant by certified mail the date and time of a scheduled hearing. The ARB does not have public hearings.
Really?
They have hearings, but the only thing they have a public hearing for, I think, is for the demolition of an historic structure. We also changed it from 14 days to 16 days. This was an issue the ARB was having because it only gave them one shot at a meeting to look at it. So we basically aligned it with what the PC has with its review of site plans and other.
Will that make us run afoul of any deadlines for material passed on by the Planning Commission if it gets hung up at ARB?
No, what it does say is they have you notice on the last part of it, say unless the timeline is extended by mutual agreement between the board and the applicant. So in that case, it gives the board some ability to say, hey, we want you to come back with these suggested revisions, and they don't feel like they're up against a time crunch. If they need it beyond that, generally it's probably they're doing good work with the applicant, so there's that ability to extend.
The only thing that I would be
I'm sorry, I
concerned,
didn't
the
answer
only
your
thing I would be
question.
concerned with is if we've got a site plan where there's a statutory requirement for it to be forwarded to council for action within 120 days of whenever it's referred to us, if it gets hung up at ARB and doesn't, is there a chance that it wouldn't make it within that statutory deadline to the town council for action?
Your decisions are not contingent upon the ARB's approval.
So it goes to council anyway, even if they,
Correct.
So it doesn't get hung up at ARB anymore as it used to?
I do not see that as being hung up at the ARB, no, sir.
Take your word for it.
Now, as a practical exercise, if there's something the ARB is reviewing that would affect the site plan,
It's happened in the past.
it's happened in the past, but that's, in that regard,
You will force the issue and force it to council?
yes.
Okay.
So,
That works for me.
okay. Okay, where else did we change? Some of those statements on 58706 under landscaping and buffering, it's simply switching out those basically tasks that would either assign to an administrator or a building official now that we have those individuals. So any questions, I'd be happy to talk to on that. Switching down to sidewalks. I'm sorry, I don't have the full
That's fine.
full citation here. We're basically just clarifying that if you're a sidewalk on Washington Street, here's your standard. If you're lighting on Washington Street, here's your standard. So,
In that case, if, without objection, I would instruct the town clerk to schedule a public hearing for the zoning text amendment for, I can't see that far, February 9th, does that sound right?
next month's meeting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Any objection to doing that?
No.
We'll schedule a public hearing and we'll kick this out the door.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, the one thing I will say is the 5817-717 lighting, the intent was not to strike the style along Washington Street. So I
Leave
need to,
that in there?
yeah, I'll follow up with Jen to correct that, but
I was wondering a little bit about
yep, so I'm sorry I missed that. So we'll do the cleanup on referring to the special use permit. I'll do some cleanup on the lighting, and I'll bring it back to you next month.
Yeah, just bring it back as a finished work, get with Jen as to what needs to be provided for publication,
Okay.
and we'll go from there, and we can take care of this post-haste.
Parking, I'm going to go through with the change that we made. I'm sorry, I'll wait till you're, I'm jumping right into it.
Did you, I mean, I've looked at it, and the changes look like what we spoke of last month, so unless you changed something that I didn't notice.
No, I was supposed to come back. I needed to do some more research on consolidating the commercial. We had 3 different references to commercial that I was supposed to go back, and also I was supposed to look at the state code regarding accessory dwelling units. You had talked about the in-law suites.
In-law suites? Okay.
So I need to do some additional research on that. I also want to add a provision, the study talked about in lieu parking fees.
Okay.
So what I wanted to suggest is as part of the text amendment, you develop a policy or position on in lieu parking so that when the CIP comes around, I'm sorry, back up a second.
No, I see where you're going.
So if the idea is to say in certain circumstances where you have a 0 lot line and cannot provide any parking on site, we develop an in lieu parking standard. That standard, we develop a fee based on an estimated cost per space. If someone was to pay that, it has to go into a fund, and that fund has to have a purpose. So you would need to have something in the council CIP that says, yes, we're going to start looking at municipal parking, and that will be the nexus with which to set up the accounts and then start requesting in lieu parking or give applicants the option to pay an in lieu parking fee.
Not a fan.
Yeah, no, and I thought we had determined that there weren't actually enough properties in town that met those requirements that would generate enough revenue to really do anything with parking. That given that we're a quarter square mile, that really generation of revenue through that methodology was not terribly effective.
Well, I don't think the intent was to build it entirely. It would simply say, if we have a municipal, I think on the CIP, we have a municipal parking lot.
I thought we struck that.
Did we? Okay. But to me, the idea is if we have a line item for a municipal parking lot, that would be one mechanism with which the in lieu fees would pay for.
So it would be a minuscule fund after a period of years that would sit there forever and buy nothing.
And we'd stripe a parking lot with it, maybe.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead and do it.
Pace myself.
I have my doubts, but okay.
When I was a zoning administrator in Middleburg, if any of you have been to Middleburg recently, it's on, it's behind Creme de la Creme, right across from Danks. There's a small little public parking lot, and that was built on in lieu parking fees paid through several businesses that were on the backside of what. Now, those are along Washington Street. They actually, in Middleburg, they didn't require a parking requirement. If you were within they called it the downtown corridor along Washington, you didn't have to do parking at all. But if you were farther back from the main street and couldn't provide parking, you paid in this fund, and that's what created the municipal parking lot. So I'd like to take a stab at it and come out with you.
We'll just defer action on this until
Yep.
next month. Then.
If I could get one more month, then I'll come back to you with a final work product.
Works for me. Comp plan, still on the back burner, right?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Town planner report.
Sharing is caring. What do I have to share? Ongoing review of the fairgrounds. They've revised their scoping document several times. They were looking at doing a fast food, perhaps a fast food restaurant on the commercial that they're leaving. Mr. Gravitz here this evening, he had mentioned to me, and I had forgotten that there's you can only have so many drive-throughs within a certain distance of each other. So they
Linear
went ahead-
distance, yeah.
Yeah, took that off the plan, but the scoping document's been revised. I'm tentatively supposed to have a meeting with Mr. Gravitt, hopefully later this month, to talk about some interim changes they want to make to that plan, like layout, maybe doing some more open spaces. So haven't heard anything from Sheets lately, haven't heard anything from McDonald's lately. We are pushing forward the plans on the ice rink, the second phase of the ice rink. We're also finishing up review of the Payne Lane project, which is the project right across the street from us. I think I mentioned to you last month the 3 lots along Washington Street adjacent to the animal hospital, basically between Hunting Path and the animal hospital. That was 3 lots. A gentleman came in, bought all 3 lots. Mr. Gravitt also represents that landowner, and I've reached out to him saying, is it worth sitting down now that the lots are being under one ownership, coming up with a master plan maybe for all that land rather than cutting up piecemeal. So hope to meet with him in the near future. What else we got going on?
Any movement on the Bloom property?
Winterham.
Yeah.
Yes, they've submitted their construction plans. This is for Building 2, which is along Fayette Street and Washington Street. They submitted those construction plans. Our building official is, I think, wrapping up his review. He had asked for some additional review from one of his partners. I have been reviewing it against the original site plan, making sure that they match up. But once they pull the permit, I think they intend to move fairly quickly this spring. We are going to have a pre-construction meeting with their contractor. That will include the clerk, the police department, the building inspector, myself, anyone else who's going to have hands on that. What's that?
I'd like to be there.
Okay, so basically the idea is where are they staging equipment? How are they going to do traffic management? What is their construction schedule so that it's not disruptive to traffic? We
Impact on their own parking lot?
What's that?
Impact on their own
Exactly,
parking
not
lot?
isolated in the parking lot, so that'll all be as part of that exercise. Sorry, I'm going east to west. Still nothing from the firehouse, although I intend to reach out to them because some of the buildings are starting to look worse than usual. Sorry, thinking off the top of my head. Fairgrounds, we already talked about self-storage. That'll be coming to you fairly quickly to wrap up its special use permit for its outdoor storage. So probably in the next 3 to 4 months, you're going to start seeing a lot of these applications show up on your agenda for final action. So,
Good. 1 mile notices, anything?
last month you had mentioned a project that I guess was several years ago. We got a rezoning in for Woodburn. This is 88 acres on the south side of Thoroughfare. So if you're on 15, get on Thoroughfare and head back to Old Carolina. It's more or less almost in the middle between
Woodburn's back?
Woodburn. So this is to rezone 88 acres from A1 to, which is A1 agricultural, to
Yes,
SR1.
SR4?
SR1, rural residential cluster, SRR, and ER, environmental resource.
How
They
many
want to
homes?
do 83. Small lot,
83?
single family with a conservation area.
Great.
So,
Hopefully DOA when it hits the board.
Mr. Mascaro, what we typically do is we have the one arrangement with the county that anything within the 1 mile, we're given courtesy copies and allowed the opportunity to comment. It's not immediately adjacent to the town. We have a file here. You're certainly welcome to look at it. Typically, what we refer to the county is there's some unique circumstance out here that that project may impact. Certainly talk about school generation. This isn't a residential conversion, so we're not losing commercial land, but we generally provide comments as staff to staff. And then once it gets on the docket for planning commission hearing, that's when we bring it back to you for an official position on the application.
Does it have a 2014 serial number, or does it have a 2007?
This one?
Yeah.
It's rezoning 2015, 2003.
So they've just essentially shelved the previous one that was already on the books and haven't done anything with in 10 years.
Yes, they don't have a proffer, well, they do have a proffer statement here, but I believe it's meant to supersede that previous rezoning.
Okay. I've still got my notes on the original one somewhere.
They have basically had this land since 2003, and it's
No, there are several
sitting?
there are several parcels within 1 mile of the town. I can rattle off a bunch of them if you really want me to, whereby they made applications prior to the housing market going bust. For a variety of reasons, they ran into problems. This is when Supervisor Covington was the Brentsville District Representative. And even though they went almost to the point of having planning commission hearings, they went to virtually a complete county planning office review, they suddenly got pulled at the last moment and been sitting on the county's DAP schedule ever since in sort of this limbo state, even though it says action required, September 12th, 2008. Prince William County, for some reason that boggles my mind, refuses to remove the deadwood from the DAPs, which would accomplish a couple of things. It would prevent applications like what is now being referred to as Prince William Station from sort of rising from the dead when nobody's looking and suddenly appearing on a planning commission schedule. It would also allow the county, if they knocked them off after a period of time of non-responsiveness, it would allow the county to essentially strike them and force them to start from ground zero, which means all new reviews, all new fees, and using the current proffer guidelines opposed to the one that they're probably grandfathered in. Do they make a mention of whether they're using the grandfathered schedule or the...
No, there's no mention.
There's no mention in their proffers of which schedule they're using?
No. But this is the initial submission that they're going through.
Okay.
So,
All right.
Midwood, we did get pinged by the county. Did we want to look at a revised Midwood? This is the data center location.
I'm assuming you said yes?
Yes, we did say yes.
Just checking.
Yes.
Thank you.
We were curious as to, because the active adult application's been sitting on the shelf. Did you mention at the Dominion meeting that they had the active adult pending? I left
I
before
did
you
not.
finished.
I did not mention that particular aspect of it, although
Okay.
it sticks in my craw. What I did mention was, for anybody that's not aware, Midwood was originally rezoned from A1 to commercial in 2003, I think, somewhere in that time period. It was supposed to be developed in conjunction with the South Market applications. That didn't happen. Midwood couldn't get people to come in and develop it, and then 2 years ago, they came in with another comp plan amendment and another rezoning application to rezone for the second time to the active adult community. That's what's currently still sitting on the shelf, along with the comp plan amendment, I believe. I'm not sure of the legality of leaving that comp plan amendment on the schedule for that long. But in the interim...
I thought they voted on that because that's
No.
that's what caused the rezoning to go through.
No.
Or be submitted.
Or maybe they voted on the comp plan.
They voted
which
to
would be
initiate.
they've initiated it, but they haven't They haven't adopted the amendment. It's still sitting on the Dow schedule.
I'm sorry, what that means is if it's currently like commercial use, the comp plan would immediately not support it, residential use, because it's planned and zoned commercial. So they have to initiate a plan amendment, and it has to be board member initiated. So someone on the board agreed to go ahead and initiate it, and they agreed to.
The board did actually initiate it. It just hasn't been acted on yet.
So that paves the way for the applicant to then submit a plan that's more or less in conflict with what the current land use is.
So all of that is relatively normal in Prince William County. Normal in Prince William County being the operative phrase. The tricky part is that when South Market was being done, it is South Market, right, that Walmart is? I always get them confused. South Market, West Market, East Market, North Market, one of the markets, whatever it is. And then the parcel next to it that potentially has the Home Depot, and that's the one that...
The far west.
Is that the one that combines with the one next to the hospital, or is it the
Correct.
Walmart one?
It's
It's the next one over, correct?
the next one over, but it's straddled by 66.
Straddled by 66. As part of the, I want to say it's the South Market one with the Walmart, because that's where they wanted to put that office building in that corner. I'll let, sure, go ahead.
South Market is the piece that is south of the rail. West Market.
West Market is this one? Thanks, Guy. I always get them confused, and I remember that it didn't make sense because the directions were wrong. Okay, West Market. It didn't make, it never made sense the way they named it. Okay, so West Market. As a provision for West Market to obtain the densities they needed to put in that office space that they were contemplating in that corner by Walmart, there was a density transfer of commercial footage from the Midwood site to West Market, which diminished the amount of allowable commercial footprint on Midwood.
You mentioned that before.
So you've got this strange circumstance where you've got a set of parcels that are currently zoned commercial. They've got a rezoning application to eliminate that commercial designation, but they've already transferred, even though the county doesn't have a density transfer ordinance, and I've always questioned the legality of this, but they have transferred the allowable uses from that parcel to West Market in exchange for, I guess, residential credits or whatever. I'd have to go back and reread the proper. Actually, Elena is looking at this right now. But it diminishes what's allowable on the commercial parcels of Midwood as it is, which calls into question whether the Amazon facility can even be built. Because there may not be enough commercial square footage left for it. I don't know.
Well, I would have think if they'd done the density transfer, the corresponding plans at Midwood would have had to been reduced proportionally.
Nobody in the planning office, to my knowledge, and I have asked multiple times, as have others, have done a proffer analysis for Midwood. So,
Well, when it comes back in, I guess we'll start the conversation, when it comes back in,
we need to find out.
so we'll make a note that they, as part of our comments, that they look at that.
Well, not only does it impact the residential community, which I can't imagine they're now going to put next to an Amazon facility and a substation.
They do it in Loudon all the time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm being facetious. But yes, when it comes in, we'll go ahead and make a note to add that research, or make a note that research should be done.
Okay.
John Marshall Commons, that's the Van Meter development to the east of town, between Pace West and Tyler Elementary. I've not heard any more back from Roy Burnett at Van Meter Homes. Last time I mentioned that they were going to reduce the multifamily units that look like townhomes on just immediately east of the town, and I've not heard back yet.
It's not on there. It's not on the planning commission schedule either, to my knowledge. So,
And a traffic circle, right?
What's that?
I was going to ask about
Roundabout.
traffic circle.
Roundabout. No, sorry.
you guys really want to irritate
Rotary.
me tonight, don't you?
I still think there's value, but anyway, moving on. That's all I have on 1 mile notices.
Okay. In that case, I'll entertain a motion.
I motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All righty.
All right, guys.